Hello, and welcome to The Revealing. I am your host, Pavoratii, here to bring you information on the Idaho 4 case. Once again, here's my disclaimer. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. These are my opinions. I'm not here to slander anyone. And with that being said, let's get started. This is the third video today and the final video today. It will not be my final video. I've decided I will keep on as long as there are things to keep on with. But this video, it's very interesting. I've been waiting a while to be able to present this, and this leaked text format seems to be the absolute best way to do it. Now, again, we're going through possible leaked text. This came from the Thought Right podcast, and these are potentially leaked text by one of the fathers of the victims who was doing his own investigating, trying to get justice for his child. People don't like when I say child, but to me, they're younger than my kids, so yeah, they're children. So his justice for his child, and he's discussing online on a chat or text with an internet detective sleuth person. He's basically trying to get information, giving a little information to get back information. It's a give and take. And we don't know if it's real. We don't know if it's accurate. I've gone through every one. Seems pretty accurate to me. I believe it. So, with that being said, this video, and we're going to show those texts here in just a minute. And just like the previous videos, I'll show them to you, but then I'll go back through and I'll read them. But this time, we're going to be talking about a very, very important subject. And I mentioned this several times throughout my videos, and if you haven't seen all of my videos, I suggest go back and watch them. It'll really fill in some blanks for you. But one of the main things that I have professed, and it's always in the news, especially in these courtroom appearances, that the defense can't seem to figure out how the prosecution, the law enforcement, got to her client, Mr. Kohberger. Well, if these leaked texts are correct, I no longer believe that she is being honest when she says that. And that might be why the judge seems to be having a little bit of fun with this case. Because he knows that she knows. Everybody seems to know, except for the community. And they're keeping that from the community until this trial, which they're happy to put off for a long time, so that the Drug Task Force can complete its task force operation and wrap up their investigation, in my opinion. So that being said, I mentioned how they really got to Mr. Kohberger from the beginning. The Drug Task Force got with law enforcement. They asked around, got a confidential informant. An informant told them who was doing the enforcing / collecting for the local drug trade. And they gave up Mr. Kohberger and possibly his associate at that time. That has always been my contention. If you watch my videos, you know this. Let's take a look at some of these leaked texts now. Okay. Now, if you weren't able to read those fast enough, it's okay. And remember, as I go through this, and I have to say this every time, but I'm only looking at the text from the young lady's father. The blue text that you see, tons of those throughout there, I'm not giving them any credence. There's an online sleuth that has come up with every conspiracy theory known to man, and she's throwing it out there. He's apparently listening, but he's throwing in little tidbits here and there of information so that they continue to give him information, hoping that they give him something of value. So as I go through these, I'm only discussing the text from the supposed father, okay? So let's read through some of these because they're very, very interesting. Okay, what have you heard about the protected witness? Protected witness. Now, if you look through a lot of the court documents, you'll see that there are a lot of redactions in there, and some of those redactions state it could cause harm to individuals if that information was released. So if you have a protected witness, who would harm them? If this is a one-off incel Ted Bundy guy that was stalking some young ladies and he just went in and all on his own committed this atrocity, and you've got him in custody and you know that you've got the right guy according to law enforcement and the media narrative, then why would these witnesses be in danger? Why would anybody be in danger at this point? All the danger should be gone. Even if his associate was involved and they knew it, well, he's gone too, right? Law enforcement took care of him. So who is left to put somebody in danger? Why would a witness be protected? Well, let's think about that for a minute. Read the next one. I have to keep the witness under wraps. The FBI warned me they don't play games with protected informants, and they could be monitoring everything I say. We've noticed some quite odd communications and behaviors. The FBI don't play games with their protected informants. Once again, what are they protecting? And what did this informant know about Mr. Kohberger? Where did they get this informant? Who is this informant? Who would hurt this informant? Why are they in danger? He went down because of the informant. He didn't plan on getting caught. So I believe he's referring to Mr. Kohberger in that sentence. He went down because of the informant. He didn't plan on getting caught. So what you're saying there then, SG, is he didn't go down because of the knife sheath. He didn't go down because of the DNA on the knife sheath. He didn't go down because of the video of his car. He didn't go down because of the cache records of his phone. He didn't go down because of the IGG investigation. He went down because of the informant. Because he didn't plan on getting caught. So what you're saying is he didn't plan on getting caught, so he was very careful at the crime scene. He didn't leave any evidence. And we'll get into a little bit more of that here in just a minute. This one told the FBI and is under their protection. Hence, why the FBI warned me not to pursue the lead I found. Quit chasing that one, guy. That one there might get you in trouble. That one is protected. They're in danger. I cannot say anything or they will come after me. That is literally what they told me. They must be serious if they threatened the father of one of the victims in this case Follow that lead, mess with that informant, and we'll come after you. Yeah, that sounds like some high priority there to me. Must be something else going on. Figure that out here in just a minute, won't we? They wrote Gray informing us this informant used some protected tip line, and if we expose them, we could be held liable. Protected tip line, huh? Well, yeah, because that's what everybody uses when they turn in tips on investigations such as this. They don't use the tip, they use the protected tip line. Everybody know how to get a hold of that protected tip line? Oh, you don't? Right, because there is not a protected tip line. The protected tip line is, you know what, they go to you, you don't go to them. There is so much more to this story than is in the media, you don't say. Hence, the real reason for the gag order, you don't say. So what you're saying then is the real reason for the gag order is all the information that's not in the media. All those things that they won't talk about, like this informant that's in danger. Wonder why they're in danger. Maybe because that informant turned in a member of an organization who was doing work for that organization, and that organization's still there. They're still being investigated by that drug task force. Maybe that's all the stuff that's hinted to be the real reason for the gag order, and it's not in the media, and nobody can talk about. Well, now, this is pure speculation on my part, but I wonder who that informant could be. All of you over there in that area, look up and look around. Who has not been unalived, but has mysteriously either moved away or just disappeared altogether? Can y'all look around and see, there's got to be somebody, because they're a protected informant now, which means they're in the witness protection program. So they're not there with you. So look up, look around, who's missing? Let's read this text. Xana's family has some history, but I was told she, meaning Xana, did not party. She did party drugs. I'm sorry. I was told that she did party drugs like Molly, which Molly is just a synthetic type of stimulant. It's nothing. But nothing that was hardcore that could lead to something like this. Well, let's look at this statement here for just a second. Because again, let's listen on the third level. There's two parts to this statement. Xana's family has some history. Cut it off. But I was told Xana did party drugs like Molly, but nothing that was hardcore that could lead to something like this. But what he didn't say was Xana's family has some history, but nothing that was hardcore that could lead to something like this. No, he didn't say that, did he? No, he said this is a two-part statement. The first part is Xana's family has some history. And by not including that in his next statement, we can just assume the opposite. Xana's family has some history, and it was hardcore that could lead to something like this. I mean, that's what we could infer easily from that. Now, I know that young lady's mother had those charges that we all have been talking about, or if you've listened to my videos I've discussed. You know, she was arrested again, though, after all this happened on some more pretty serious drug charges. And that's always kind of puzzled me, because it's my opinion that she was muling for that organization, and she was caught, and she made a deal right before these atrocities happened, and that's the reason they happened. It was the message. They couldn't stop her from talking, but they could sure stop somebody else from talking. And you know what? They could probably stop her from going through and actually setting somebody up. But if that is the case, then how did she go and get a bunch more drugs and get arrested again shortly after this all took place? That organization probably wouldn't have let her mule anymore, I wouldn't think. Is anybody in jail with that young lady right now? Anybody visiting her in jail? Has anybody seen her in jail? Willing to bet you haven't. I'm willing to bet all those new fresh charges she got aren't real. She's in that witness protection program. I'm willing to bet she's that informant that they're mentioning, that lives would be in danger if anybody found out about. Hope I didn't just put people's lives in danger by going through and picking this stuff out of the puzzle. If I did, sorry y'all. But let's talk about the implications of this, all right? Because the implications of all this are even greater. Because if I'm correct, and this would verify that I am correct if this is true. And if this is true, I'm absolutely 1,000% correct on everything that I've said. So if I am correct, though, that means that none of that evidence actually led to Mr. Kohberger. It was the informant from the very beginning. And that means everything in this investigation has been reverse investigated. Now, this is where I get perturbed, because while I do not want a criminal who, even a gun for hire, who does these types of things to go free, justice needs to be served. It needs to be served on everybody, though, and I don't like it when they keep things quiet to the public, make the public think they're safe when they're not. We're all grown, and the government is not our daddies. They're not our God. They need to be open and outright and be upfront with us about things, not try to hide things from us. That makes me upset. That's the first thing. The second thing is, I don't like when law enforcement uses unethical practices to obtain their convictions of their assailants. So let's go back and let's look at this, because this is what I see that happened in this case. The informant came to the drug task force very early on, pointed out Mr. Kohberger. And whether it was that young lady's mother or not, I don't know. But I know an informant did. Somebody in that organization, somebody in that town that was knowledgeable about who was in the organization came forward and gave him up. It was a snitch, okay? Confidential informant. We call them snitches. So once that happened, and if you look back to one of the things that I read, he said he wasn't planning on getting caught. It was the informant that caught him. That means when they got to the crime scene, there wasn't any evidence. He did it right. This thing was clean. He knew what he was doing. Both of them did. So how can they get him then, if that's the case? Because it's not going to be from his cell phone, folks. Because let me tell you how cell phones work. Nowadays, they'll use your cell phone data to convict you of a crime based on your location, based on your text messages, but mainly based on your location to that crime. They use it in case after case after case now. It's a major investigative technique. But let me tell you, they can't have it both ways. If your phone is turned off and they can't get that location data on you, they can't say, well, we sure got him with this because he turned his phone off during the time of the atrocity, so that must mean that he was there and he did it. They can't do that. That's not evidence. That goes against the evidence. If the phone was on and they could track that data, then that would absolutely convict him, but it wasn't. So they cannot use the phone as the evidence, I assure you. You can't have it both ways. It either works for you or against you, not both. So what they needed, and they knew this early on, was they needed some information on Mr. Kohberger so that they could make sure that they got him. Now, the FBI was involved early on. Well, let me tell you what the FBI has the ability to do. If you don't believe me, go Google it, all right? Because, again, this came back to that Patriot Act. They can unmask an individual. It's called an unmasking. And when they digitally unmask you, and it's highly illegal without a FISA warrant, right? And they're not going to get a FISA warrant to be able to unmask an American citizen unless he's involved in terrorist activities, okay? But they do it. So they unmask you, and when they do that, they can instantly see all your purchases, all of your digital data. I mean, it's like everything right there for them to look at. They got it all at their fingertips. So they could find out really quickly if he had purchased something like a K-bar knife in the last 6 months. I mean, they would find that out really fast. And if he had, well, they're smart. They know that he hasn't got that thing on him anymore. So what can they do? Well, they find out that he purchased it. That's all they need to do. Now one of those little local PD guys go in there and put in their PCA that, oh, there was a knife sheath. They don't need the DNA at this point. Oh, no, there was a knife sheath. It was a K-bar knife sheath. But you didn't find this out right away, though, did you? Well, they didn't mention this until weeks and weeks after the atrocity happened. And here's what's funny. They didn't mention it until one of those little online personalities, Papa Rogers, mentioned they must have the knife sheath in his little social media post that have become so popular. Well, isn't that just a huge coincidence? You know what? In law enforcement, you know what they call finding that knife sheath with the DNA, and then, finding an online personality talking about the knife sheath before it's been made public. You know what that's called? An orgy of evidence. Orgy of evidence. It's an orgy. It's just perfect, isn't it? How easy would it have been for the FBI, since they had already unmasked this gentleman, to create, with his credentials, a social media account? And then, of course, they're going to name it Papa Rogers. Why? Because Papa Rogers references an incel character that shot up a bunch of people that other apparently incels look to as like somebody to be held in high regard. So they make up a name like that because they're trying to paint the guy as an incel in the media, right? So that would make sense. Then they put in things about that knife sheath before they plant it, so that when they do find it, they can say, look, his credentials, he made up this fake name with this knife sheath. Oh, he knew about it, said it online before we made it public, so we know it's him. Now all we need is his DNA to be put on this thing. Uh-oh, this guy's too slick. We've had him under surveillance. We've gone by his house, his apartment. We've tried to get his trash. I mean, there's nothing in his trash that gives us any kind of blood or hair or DNA. How's he doing it? Well, we'll use the one kind of DNA that we know we can get from him, the touch. Because we can get that off his doorknob, off his car doorknob, or off things at his school. So let's get some of that, and we'll plant that on the knife, on the sheath, and that way we can start our miraculously fast reverse genealogy, investigative genealogy research team that takes 6 months to make something happen. We'll get them to make this happen in about 13 days. So kind of scary what happens once all that takes off. Once again, folks, I probably said too much. Once again, these are my opinions. These are just my thoughts. Probably not even close to what's going on. But do like and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to hearing your criticisms, your comments. I do read them all, and I appreciate them all. And until next time, Pavoratii is out.